Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit snaps their 3-game losing streak with a late comeback against the New York Islanders.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's us over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am the color commentator for ACHA D1 men's hockey at Oakland University, and I will be covering the Motor City Rockers game on Saturday at 7 o'clock at Big Boy Arena, so check that out. Just filling in for Brady, their normal play-by-play guy again. Scotty, got a Red Wings win. Feels good.
Feels fantastic. I am so relieved, man. When this game was 1-0 in the third, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" Like they're out shooting them, like they're getting opportunities, and just nothing was going their way. They got no lucky bounces in the first 2 periods of this game, and it was just like it was. I was really nervous that I was just gonna be like, man, like that they just can't catch a break. Like they literally They just can't catch a break. They looked and played really hard, and it was a pretty even game. Or the Wings were the better team for a large portion of this game too, and it was just very frustrating when they were down. So I'm glad that they got a win that I feel like they deserved to get.
Yeah, legitimately. I mean, there was 5 minutes left in the third, and I went, "Oh my God, they're going to lose this game 1-0." And then 15 seconds later, Berggren tied it up. So we'll talk about all that and more. Before we can get to that, though, got to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And Scotty, I feel like you kind of gave your thoughts there. Would your thoughts there align with your first thought in regards to this 2-1 Detroit Red Wings? Yeah, relief. You think that's
yes?
Okay, fair. I mean, my first thought when it comes to this game was it was a deserved win. A lot of people are going to hear like late comeback and they're going to they pulled it out of their ass. They didn't. This was a game where for 45 minutes, you could at minimum 30 minutes of this hockey game, you could stretch it all the way to the second half of the first if you really wanted to. This was the better team at 5-on-5 the entire game. They looked like, especially in the third they dominated. And of course, they were down 1-0. They were pushing hard. But this was a game where they deserved a win. And I thought the reason why it was so frustrating with 5 minutes left was because they were playing so well and they weren't scoring. They were getting goalied up until that point. They were out shooting their opponent. They flashed the graphic. They were dominating the offensive zone possession. All things they don't typically do. But they finally got rewarded. So my first thought was they deserved to win this game, and they did. So it may have been a late comeback, but that was a game that they earned in my book. And that's my first thought, is that was an earned win. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, like I said.
In terms of, difference makers, we talked a little bit about it before we got on the air here. I'm going to go with Jonathan Berggren. Not that he scored the game-tying goal. It wasn't the game-winning goal, but it was the game-tying goal. It was the goal that finally broke it open. It was a little bit of luck involved, right? Islanders defender broke their stick at the blue line. Oh. He came on a 2-on-1 with Vladimir Tarasenko, and he opted to take the shot, and that was a shoot. I mean, we know he's a sniper. That was a shooter shot. It was incredible. Went past blocker side, just missed the post. In fact, when I thought it hit the post on first blush because it hit just the netting behind the post up in the upper corner, so it bounced straight out like as if it had hit the post. And it wasn't until Ken Daniels screamed that it was a goal that I was like, oh, they scored. I thought we blew another opportunity. But I really genuinely think that goal by Berggren, who's heating up a little bit. He's now got 3 goals in 4 or 5 games, maybe even less than that. I think that was the oh my God, the sigh of relief, we can score, and it just encouraged the Red Wings to continue to pour it on even harder, and then they tied it up with less than a minute. Took the lead with less than a minute left in the third period. I really think that Berggren goal, even though it was just a game tire, was the difference maker in this hockey game.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I think the biggest takeaway from that is just the hope that this is a sign of him turning the corner and him again, like you said, being on a little bit of an offensive heater lately. It's a couple of goals in the last week. So yeah, I think that him getting going would just go such a long way for that depth scoring. And we've talked about his improvements defensively. And we've talked about how he's doing a lot outside of putting the puck in the back of the net for the team this year that I don't think should go unnoticed. And we're really impressed with him because that was such a big question mark. But if he can hold on to that while then scoring at the capacity that we anticipated him, that would go a very, very long way. And this game, proves it.
I mean, they're relying on him to replace the depth scoring of Daniel Sprong. Like, I mean,
Right.
Maybe that's not how they view it, but us as a fan base, that's how we viewed him coming into the season. It's like he's a guy who's going to be a power play specialist type, bottom six role, not a lot of defense, scores goals, and he hadn't been scoring goals. So we were like, But now he's finally breaking through, and if he can continue to build on that, he can be more than Daniel Sprong, because we've already seen the defensive efforts from him. Not that he's like some defensive masterclass, but the effort is there. And really, when it comes to improving defense over Daniel Sprong, effort is all we're asking for. And He's brought that. So if the scoring can now break through and he's got that monkey off his back, then he could be a huge boon for the Detroit Red Wings in the bottom six. And in this game, he proved important.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, mine, I think it'd be really easy to go with Raymond, right? And he certainly had a huge moment in this game, and we'll absolutely talk about that. But honestly, I'm gonna go Larkin just because of everything that he did. Really, just period. Like, end of sentence. Everything that he did, he was everywhere in this hockey game. Really good defensively, really good passing, a couple of opportunities that just didn't find the back of the net. But the pass that he had to Raymond was unbelievable. That's at the end of a shift. And Mickey Redmond did a great job of kind of breaking this down when the game was happening. That's end of a shift in the corner, wins a puck battle, and then goes no look behind him right to Raymond's stick for the goal. Like that was an exclamation point to what was already a fantastic outing from Larkin, and we're very used to that. He's the captain for a reason. He's the best player on the team, but this is a because of the struggles the team has had so far. There have been so many games we've been looked at the box score, come on here after the end of the game and just been like, well, Larkin was great. Everybody else kind of, hit or miss. And for him to get rewarded in this game, I think just felt really good as a viewer. So he was everywhere. Like I said, really good defense along with it. He played a great 60.
Absolutely. And, when you look at, you talked about his defense in this, because it's so easy to highlight his offense, right? Because he comes with speed. He gets into the offensive zone. He wins those races. He gets to the puck. He digs it out like he did, again, on that Raymond goal. It was all because he pressured the puck to win the puck battle. Very similar to the grimy goal they got just a few nights ago. I think it was with he and Raymond on the power play that went backdoor to Patrick Kane, I think it was, against the Ducks. That doesn't happen. No, I'm sorry, that was the Sharks. That doesn't happen without him not afraid to get in the corners and getting dirty. And there's very few players. It's one of the issues with this team. There's not a lot of players on this team who are willing to get dirty like that, and he does it. And then the defensive side of things, like, he was 7th fewest shot attempts against at 5-on-5, and you say, 7th fewest, that's not that impressive. Well, I mean, you remember, he's your number one center, so he's playing a lot more minutes than many other players.
And a lot harder competition.
And a lot harder competition, and he was 4th fewest at expected goals against. So the quality of those shot attempts against that the Red Wings faced when he was on the ice were lesser because he was out there. 4th fewest expected goals against at 5-on-5, and a lot of the things, too, that drive having low amounts of Corsi against and low amounts of Fenwick against and low amounts of shots against and expected goals against, all that is helped when you have the puck. And when that top line's out there, they tend to have the puck more often. The best way to have great defense is to have the puck. And the top line, more often than not, at least relative to anyone other line on this team, is they have it. They're driving the offense. And they were again in this game. Although it wasn't perfect with that top line, there was some line shakeup, so we'll talk about that. It's on the show sheet if you're watching on YouTube regarding Tyler Motte. That was unexpected, but welcome, the Tyler Motte shakeup. We'll talk about that, of course, and more in segments 2 and 3 of Locked On Red Wings, so stay tuned. We have a ton more to cover in a 2-1 win over the New York Islanders. Got to talk to you guys today about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite team play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Right now, Game Time is having an exclusive zone deal for the NHL Winter Classic event at Wrigley Field. Go to the Game Time app to purchase tickets and get 10% off bleacher seating and 20 to 25% off home plate area seats. And Curation makes it easier to save more on that Winter Classic, as well as sports, comedy, concert, theater, and so much more. And by toggling on the all-in pricing toggle, you can see the price and upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. That includes everything that other competitors may try to hide until the last minute. Just make sure you got that all-in pricing toggle on to see that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, notable performers. I know I mentioned Tyler Motte, but we have obviously others to talk about as well. Who do you want to lead off with, rather?
Honestly, I want to lead off with Raymond, just because we kind of talked about the goal there before the break. He is obviously having a great year distributing the puck. And if we can just get a little bit more goal scoring, you're talking about a guy that's going to finish in the mid 80s, maybe even push 90 in points on the season. He is unbelievable. And I think that keeping him and Larkin on a line together is a very high priority for me. Obviously, we're about to talk about the other wing on that line and how it's kind of been a revolving door a little bit, but I really want to see Raymond and Larkin stick together. And I know we've tried some different things, and Raymond was down to the second line for a couple games just to try to, see if we get something going and whatnot. But I think that honestly, that was one of my biggest takeaways was just we'll talk about Motte, but Raymond and Larkin just work really, really well together.
Yeah, and I mean, last year they were distributing the puck pretty evenly amongst each other, but this year it's been pretty much a one-way pipeline from Raymond to Larkin. Larkin's got 11 goals. He's on pace for 50 this season, which is crazy. And meanwhile, Raymond's on pace for 10, but 68 assists.
Well, yeah, a little higher now, thankfully.
He's on pace for 78 points this season, and
right.
90% of those are assists right now. So, eventually we knew the pipeline
point a game
was going to...
3 goals is crazy.
Right. Eventually, we knew that the pipeline was going to start feeding back the other way because we knew Larkin was an incredible playmaker, and we saw last year how well Raymond can shoot the puck. We saw in that goal how well he can shoot the puck as well. He got robbed by Sorokin on a glove save earlier in the third as well. I don't remember that, but he went right back to that glove side and beat him on that shot. So this time, Larkin was able to feed Raymond, and Raymond was able to show off his finishing ability. So it's one of those situations where Larkin, who coming into the game had 4 assists, which is abnormal for him, and Raymond, who had 17 assists and 2 goals or whatever it was, they both kind of added to the totals that were lacking thus far, and that will continue. And I remember having that conversation, right? We did a lot of those, little tangent here, but we did a lot of those player previews, right? And we were talking about, the player ceilings for the season, what you could expect, and with DeBrincat, with Larkin, with Raymond, we were all 3 of these guys we could see hypothetically getting 40 goals. But because they're all playing on the line together, not all 3 are going to get 40 goals.
Right.
Because that would be an incredibly good top line. But you're always going to default to somebody feeding somebody else for a lot of those goals. And early on in the season, it's been Raymond defaulting back to his distributing talents to feed Larkin, and eventually that will level out, and both of them are going to start feasting off of each other, and hopefully this is the beginning of that, as this second Raymond goal in 4 games now, so not that's an incredible rate, but compared to the first 15 before that, it's a lot better rate than it was.
Yeah, You prorate that. You're talking about you're talking about a 40-goal season. I don't know.
Yeah, you prorate 2 goals in 4 games, man. Things are looking pretty good. The other notable thing I want to talk about too, second line of Marco Kasper, Alex DeBrincat, and Patrick Kane was really good. And this was Patrick Kane's best 5-on-5 performance. And I don't think that it's too much of a stretch to say that's because you had him back with somebody he was great with in the past in Alex DeBrincat, but also because you got a young, exciting rookie in Marco Kasper up there. And now Marco Kasper's a rookie. He's going to go through, I'm sure, some peaks and valleys throughout the season. But this game was definitely a peak for him on the second line.
Great.
He looked great. The entire second line looked great. And it was
He should have had a goal. Bounced off his face mask. I mean, golly.
Yeah, he had a couple really good looks because Marco Kasper's not afraid to get in the corners. He's got speed. He's got offensive IQ. He's got good hockey IQ, is something I've really noticed. He's not afraid to play the body. He's not afraid to engage in those puck battles. Like, he is the center that is going to be driving plays for players like DeBrincat and Patrick Kane and get them into positions to stick, handle, and shoot. Meanwhile, I mean, he's benefiting from that too. How many of those looks that he had today were off of Patrick Kane feeds?
Right.
I'm not saying that this line is going to continue to work because this is what the second game we've had Kasper on the second line and the first game we've had with this matchup of players. But this was a really good debut for those players. Patrick Kane led the team in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. He hasn't all season long, really. This is the first game in what feels like a long time that Patrick Kane looked like a dominant 5-on-5 player. And I think a lot of that has to do with his line mates.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. I think that, just him getting more and more opportunities in general is awesome. But I think if that line can work, it opens the door for so much more. Like, you're talking about a really good offensive weapon. Obviously, Cat and Kane have worked well together. Like, that just really, really, with DeBrincat's improvements defensively, with obviously what Kasper can do defensively, like that really would open the door for a lot of other stuff if that can work, especially up the middle. I mean, again, Comfer not being the 2C, I think just, I don't know. It's that same conversation with the improvement of depth with people playing above their role.
Right, and I'm watching Kasper play, and I'm really genuinely trying to figure out gaps in his game. Like, there are areas that could be refined, and he'll get better, but, like, he looks like a very good two-way player.
Yeah.
And, like, is he physical? Yes. Does he back down from people? No. Does he get in the corners and engage in puck battles? Yes. Does he have at least decent hands? Yeah. Does he have puck IQ? Yes. Can he shoot the puck? Yes. Like, Marco Kasper, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, he's pretty well-rounded player already. Not that he's like game breaker in any of those categories, but he's still so young. Like, been very impressed with how well-rounded he's been so early. And I mean, you look at Scotty, the expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. People love that. I know how much they love expected goals, but they led the team along with Simon Edvinsson in expected goals for percentage in this game. 75% for Kane, 74% with Edvinsson, 73% with DeBrincat, and 73% for Marco Kasper. And a large part of that was because their expected goals for was insane. They each had 1.13 expected goals for in this hockey game. Each of them, individually. Not counting Simon Edvinsson. I'm talking about the second line.
Right.
Individually. Right. Like, that is crazy high. Like, they were literally expected to each score a goal in this game.
Right.
And a big part of that is they're playing together as a line, and it's kind of a cumulative stat. So, like, keep in mind, like, that doesn't mean each and every single one is going to score a goal. But as a line collectively, like, they were projected to have scored a goal in this game, and they just couldn't bury it. Like, that was incredible performance by the second line. I'm talking in circles. I'm rambling, so we can move on. But great debut performance by that line.
Absolutely. Yeah. You want to talk Motte?
Yeah, let's do it.
I didn't mind it, man. I don't know. I'm not gonna like come on here and be like Tyler Motte should be on the top line, going forward. But top line Tyler is what they're calling him. I don't know, like that was a heck of a performance. He looked pretty good, man. I don't know.
I'm not saying that Tyler Motte is our best offensive driving forward, but the statistics do say, Scotty, that as a line, JT Compher, Jonathan Berggren, and Tyler Motte in their 5 minutes of 5-on-5 playing time had an expected goals for percentage of 67.18%. Now, I'm not saying that he's a, top line production driver, but I am saying that is only second to the top line of Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, and Tyler Motte, who had an 80% expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5 in their 6 minutes of playing time. So I'm not saying it, but the analytics are saying Tyler Motte is the reason why both those lines popped off. But no, in all seriousness, he had a very good game. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying Wayne Gretzky should, sleep with one eye open because Tyler Motte's coming, baby.
That was a really good performance by Tyler Motte. Like, all joking aside, right?
No,
like,
well,
obviously, I'm clearly joking. He had a good game. He
does things that Larkin kind of does everything, but like he's that kind of like gritty, grimy player that a top line needs, right? Like just kind of the player that's not afraid to use the body, and he even had a fast break opportunity in this game. He came up short, obviously, but yeah, man, I think he is a nice blend. He's similar to the way we described Rasmussen when he's at his best, Motte being a couple of seasons ago, which was, he kind of blends in with any line combination can use a Tyler Motte. And I'm not saying that like this level of production is going to sustain or that he should be on the top line going forward or anything like that. But it is nice to know that he can kind of plug and play wherever.
Yeah, like I'm not naive enough to think like, oh, we found our solution in the top six, and it's journeyman fourth liner Tyler Motte. But it was, the Tarasenko, they started him on the top line. It wasn't working. I imagine they put Tarasenko up there because primarily he can be a shooter. And you took DeBrincat, who is a shooter, off the top line. So you put Tarasenko up there hoping that the speed of Larkin and Raymond can supplement him, put him in positions to score. Also, he's a very heavy forward, so you hope that he's your heavy forechecking presence to win those puck battles. They were not good together. Tarasenko had a bad game. So they put him on the fourth line and said, okay, Tyler Motte, you're a guy who's a heavy forechecker. He's not heavy. He's only 5'10", 194 pounds. He's not a big dude, but he's not afraid to grind it out. And I think the thing that surprised me the most in his, 6 minutes of 5-on-5 time in the third period was how he played with pace. I was actually surprised with how well he kept up with Raymond and Larkin. And I don't know if it's going to continue to work out, but it worked out well enough in this game that I'm giving another shot. This team's needs something, needs a shot in the arm. And if for a few games Tyler Motte can provide them with enough of a shot in the arm to get them on the right track, then hey, I'm all for it. I'm very much of the mindset, right? I'm of the mindset you play well, you get rewarded with more minutes. And Tyler Motte played good in this game, really well, especially after being a healthy scratch quite a bit after coming back from injury. So,
man.
Give it a shot. Why not?
Man, if it ain't broke.
I'm not saying he's the best player on the team, but the two lines he played on were the best No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, they were, but I'm not looking too deeply into that.
I'm just saying max contract.
I'm just saying Tyler Motte.
7 years, 10 AAV. That work for you?
Give him the C already. I mean, come on. What are we doing? It was a good game by him. Scotty, we're going to head to segment 3, and when we come back, anything we got left to say about this hockey game, and then we'll move on to previewing the Boston Bruins on Saturday. So stay tuned to Lockdown Red Wings. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. All righty, Scott. Oh, I don't like calling you Scott. I've never called you Scott before.
I literally heard you say that. I was like, I think it's the first time he has ever called me that, ever. I was like, that sounded weird.
Sidebar, am I the only one who calls you Scotty? I feel like everyone else calls you Scott.
No, dude, no. It's very 50-50.
Like, it's literally Scott on your little name card there. And I never really noticed that until a couple weeks ago. I'm like, Have I just been like, has he just never corrected me and he doesn't even care for that nickname?
It has been 50-50 my whole life. Like literally like half the people in my life call me Scott, half call me Scotty. It is very much whatever.
How do you feel about me calling you Scotland?
I have a few people that call me Scotland.
Okay, good. It's like a pseudo full name, like if you had one. Like Scott's the nickname.
Right.
Scotland's your full name.
You know, when I was in kindergarten, we had an activity where in the class, the teacher was like, hey, everybody come up and write your real name. And I was like, what? Like real name? And so like all the Samanthas, would go, like all the Sams would go up and write Samantha, and all the, Jacks and John and like everything like that. And I came home and was like, what's my real name? My dad was like, your real name? What? He's like, that is your real name is Scott Bentley. And I was like, but it's like, what's it short for though? And he was like, no, it's not short for anything. That you don't have a like shortened name. And that's when I learned that was a thing.
Scottavius. That'd be a good one.
Right.
All right. Scotty, back on track. Sidebar over. Anyone else on this game that you want to give a shout out to?
Alex Lyon.
Yeah.
Obviously, didn't face a ton of like a super high volume of shots, but still made a lot of really good saves. And in the first half of this game, kind of before the ice tilted a little bit, and again, like we talked about earlier, the Wings, this was a pretty solid game by the Wings for all 60, but he was pestered at one point there at the in the first period and really kept even the one goal against. That was just a really good redirection. Not too much you can do there. And really good to see him get back on track because his last outing before this one was terrible. So nice to get him back on track. And hopefully we can head into this weekend with two goalies where we want them.
Yeah, I mean, he was rough against the Ducks. And if, going back, if you were to give like a 2-sentence recap of why they lost, it would have been the penalty kill stank and right. Alex Lyon had a rough game. It was a nice bounce back. Like you said, he didn't face a high volume of shots, but he came up clutch when they needed him. I still think he gave up some juicy rebounds, which I'd love to see, reel in. But, I mean, he made the saves he had to do, and the rebounds that were generated were whacked away, which Red Wings are good at doing this season. One of their few strengths is, making sure the rebound opportunities don't get put in. So he had a .957 save percentage in this hockey game. I think his goal saved above expected was just shy of 1. So analytically, however much you believe in that, says the Islanders should have scored another goal in this hockey game, and his performance prevented that. So that's good to see. I mean, we don't really need to talk about Seider and Edvinsson. I thought they were good again. They just consistently are very good. Mm-hmm. I already mentioned Edvinsson was near the top of the team in expected goals for percentage. They both were at top for Corsi for percentage, for so raw shot attempts for and against. They got split up at times. That's interesting. That's of note, at least. It's not of note.
Well, end of the game specifically, but as you mentioned before we hit record, kind of during penalty kill situations in general, they've been going. I mean, at the end of this game was the prime example. They went Sherratt and
Seider.
Mo, goodness, forgot names there for a second. They went Sherratt and Seider there to end the hockey game, which I thought was at least noteworthy. But maybe that's, Edvinsson's still very young. Maybe that's just a game plan thing for coaching. But I think that obviously we talk about it every game, but it's worth talking about. Edvinsson and Seider have been fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, and they did split it up on the penalty kill. And they set the second penalty kill unit was Petrie and Edvinsson out there. So my speculation is, and this is my speculation, I have no confirmation in this, but if I had to take a guess, I personally would think this is more to do with the second pair than it does the top pair.
I don't even think that's speculatory. I think that's objective. They don't want a penalty kill with Sherratt and Petrie on it. So there you go.
Well, they did earlier in the season, and I think they realized it's not working.
Right. That's why we're here.
So they it's one of those situations where you're making the top pair suffer, but if you're going to split the time on the penalty kill with two pairs, you kind of need to split them up. Because when 5-on-5 got back together, they then would reunite. Pavel Datsyuk, honorary contract. He technically retires as a Red Wing, which is really nice symbolic.
Thank goodness it was not as a
what?
Well, as a Coyote, but that's not even a team.
Never happened.
So, okay.
It never happened.
Right. Right.
Man, listen, they threw out Shane Doan's retirement banner. He had to fish that out of a dumpster.
Hey,
So
I'm not going to bat for the Coyotes, dude. Yeah.
in my mind, they don't exist anymore.
They don't exist. That's not in your mind. That's the world. Yes, they don't exist anymore.
that is very fair. That is very fair.
True, yes.
In my mind and in reality, they no longer exist. I guess I should have said they never.
The real thing is happening. Okay, cool, dude. Good job.
I guess I should have said in my mind they never existed.
There you go.
Is what I should have said. Oh my god. I mean, the only other thing I have, okay, there's not going to be a Bruins preview, but the Bruins, they've been struggling. They fired their head coach, Sacco. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Interim head coach. He got a win, 1-0 win over the Utah Hockey Club in his first game as head coach. Jonas Korpisalo, ironically, got the shutout while the Senators lost again and the Red Wings passed them in the standings. There's a little bit of solace in that because there's a big rivalry going on between the Red Wings and the Ottawa rebuild. But I don't really have anything to add about the Bruins. They've been struggling all year long. Goaltending's been a question mark. Basically, it finally caught up with them, and it's been coming for a long time.
Yeah, agreed.
Only other thing I have for you, Scotty, is this is a big question. We should have spent more time on it. We just did 3 straight episodes talking about Lalonde's future, and then the Red Wings won what felt like a do-or-die game for him.
Point back.
Well, how do the other teams in the division do?
So back. We're so back.
Are we?
Yeah.
Are we so back?
Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah,
he's off the hot seat. By the way, there's still 3 points back because the Bruins won, and some of the Bruins had the second wild.
Right. Yeah, they were 1 point back when the final buzzer sounded, but then
the Bruins game wasn't over yet. I just, I wonder if that changes. It doesn't really change my perspective that they probably.
No, it doesn't. It's one game. I don't. My perspective, joking aside, has not changed at all. If they go out there and lay an egg on Saturday, we're right back to where we were. So,
and I also think there's going to be a crowd that says well, every win you get with Lalonde behind is ruining your draft stock. I'm like, you can't control that. They're going to win, and it is what it is. Just enjoy the wins when they happen, and if they lose, you're just one step closer to a change behind the bench. And if they go on a winning streak, well then. Maybe we'll have to have a conversation about having jumped the gun, but I don't anticipate having to do that. But also didn't anticipate 2 years ago having to have this conversation to begin with.
Yeah,
so
I just watched on 10-game under 500 baseball team go 35-10 in the last month and a half of the season after I called people ridiculous for having hope. So,
yeah, so crazy things happen in sports. Anyways,
sure do.
Final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode on Monday to recap the game against the Boston Bruins. So stay tuned. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.